Do you ever think about all the things you didn't do? Not because you couldn't, but because fear whispered, "Not yet." The trip you almost booked, the person you almost loved, the version of yourself you almost became. It's strange how the moments we avoided become the memories that stay the longest. So much of life was not lived because of fear. So many words went unspoken because speaking felt too dangerous. So many opportunities slipped past because reaching for them required a kind of bravery that didn't exist yet. So many small moments and big chances passed by while fear stood guard, whispering that it was safer to stay still, safer to stay quiet, safer to stay small. And all that safety created a life that felt like waiting, like watching from behind glass while other people lived boldly, like holding breath for so long that breathing itself became strange. Nobody warned that this would happen. That fear would become the default setting. That courage would have to be learned the hard way, through all the accumulated regret of things not done, words not said, risks not taken. My name is Annie, and if someone could go back and tell the younger version of me just one thing, it would be this: the fear never goes away. Waiting for it to disappear before taking action means waiting forever. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting anyway. It's moving forward with shaking hands and racing heart, and a voice in the head screaming to stop. It's doing the thing despite every instinct saying to run the other way. That's what nobody explained. That bravery looks like terror on the inside. That the people who seem fearless are just better at moving through the fear instead of letting it be the end of the story. The younger version of self didn't know this. She thought brave people felt different, felt confident and certain and steady. She thought something was wrong with her for feeling scared all the time, for hesitating, for second-guessing, for letting opportunities pass because she couldn't quiet the fear long enough to grab them. She waited for the fear to lift, waited for confidence to arrive, waited for certainty, waited for a sign, waited for permission, waited for perfect conditions. And while she waited, time kept moving. Life kept happening around her while she stood frozen, watching it go by. The first big regret came in high school. There was a person, someone who seemed interesting and kind and maybe, possibly, potentially interested back. But asking them out felt impossible. The fear was enormous. What if they said no? What if they laughed? What if everyone found out and it became a story people told? The risk felt too high, the potential humiliation too great, so nothing happened. No question was asked, no risk was taken. And that person eventually dated someone else, someone braver. Someone who asked. For years after, there was the wondering, the what if. What if the answer would have been yes? What if that fear had been pushed through? What if one moment of courage had changed everything? But the what ifs led nowhere. They just circled endlessly in the mind, creating a kind of haunting. The ghost of the possibility that was never explored. What nobody said was this: rejection is survivable. It hurts, yes. It stings and embarrasses and feels terrible in the moment. But it's survivable. The sun still rises the next day. Life continues. And the pain of rejection fades much faster than the pain of wondering what might have been. That regret lasts longer, cuts deeper, stays around for decades. As the years passed, there were more moments like that, more opportunities not taken. The college far from home that wasn't applied to because leaving felt too scary. The major that seemed interesting but impractical, so a safer choice was made instead. The friend group that felt wrong, but leaving it meant being alone for a while, so staying felt easier. The relationship that had run its course, but ending it required a difficult conversation, so it dragged on for months longer than it should have. Each time, fear won. Each time, the safer choice was made. And each time, there was a small diminishment, a small shrinking, a small betrayal of the person who was trying to become herself but kept getting overruled by the voice that said, "Stay small, stay safe, don't risk it." There's something else I still think about. The job that was never applied for. It was a dream job. The kind of position that seemed perfect, but also competitive, also unlikely, also a long shot. And the fear said, why bother? Why put yourself through the inevitable rejection? Why waste time applying when there's no chance of getting it? So the application was never submitted. And someone else got that job. Someone else who probably also felt scared and uncertain but did it anyway. That pattern repeated itself over and over. The dream deferred, the chance not taken, the risk avoided. And each time there was relief in the moment. Relief at not having to feel the fear. Relief at not risking rejection. Relief at staying in the familiar, comfortable zone where everything was known and controlled. But that relief was temporary. It lasted a day, maybe a week. And then the regret moved in. The wondering, the wishing, the looking back and thinking, why didn't I just try? Another memory returns to me now. There was a trip that almost happened. A friend was going to Europe and invited others to come along. It was expensive. It required time off work. It meant traveling to unfamiliar places where the language was different and the customs were foreign, and getting lost was a real possibility. All of those things felt like reasons not to go. The fear built a case. Too expensive. Too complicated, too risky, too much could go wrong. And so the answer was no. The invitation was declined. The safe choice was staying home. The friend went anyway, came back with stories, with photos, with experiences that changed something in them, with a wider view of the world and themselves. And there was envy, deep envy, not jealous envy exactly, more like grief. Grief for the experience that could have been. Grief for the version of self that might have been a little braver, a little more adventurous, a little less ruled by fear. What that moment taught, but only years later, was this. The worst-case scenario rarely happens. Most of what fear predicts never comes true. The catastrophic outcomes, the terrible consequences, the disasters that seem inevitable, they mostly exist only in imagination. And even when things do go wrong, when mistakes are made or plans fall apart or difficulties arise, there's always a way through, always adaptation, always resilience that shows up when needed. Human beings are so much more capable than fear gives them credit for. But younger self didn't know that yet. She believed everything fear told her. Believed that disaster lurked around every corner. That taking risks meant certain failure. That stepping outside the comfort zone meant danger. So she stayed inside the safe zone, inside the familiar patterns, inside the life that felt manageable because it was small and controlled and predictable. I remember another moment that sits heavy in memory. There was a truth that needed to be spoken, a relationship that wasn't working, a situation that was causing harm. And the truth was clear, sitting right there, known fully and completely. But speaking, it felt impossible. It would hurt feelings. It would cause conflict. It would make things uncomfortable. It might end the relationship entirely. And all of those consequences felt too frightening to face. So the truth stayed unspoken. And the unhealthy situation continued. For months, for years in some cases, creating more and more damage because the fear of temporary discomfort prevented the honesty that could have led to healing or necessary ending. That taught something crucial, though again the lesson came too late to change what happened. It taught that avoiding conflict doesn't prevent pain. It just postpones it, and often makes it worse. The difficult conversation that gets avoided doesn't go away. It sits there, growing heavier, becoming harder to say, until eventually the weight of the unspoken truth becomes unbearable. And then it comes out anyway, but messier, angrier, more hurtful. Or it never comes out at all and just calcifies into resentment that slowly poisons everything. Speaking difficult truths is terrifying. But it's also necessary. It's how boundaries get set. It's how needs get communicated. It's how authenticity becomes possible. And the temporary discomfort of a hard conversation is so much lighter than the chronic pain of living inauthentically, of pretending, of hiding, of making oneself smaller to avoid conflict. As the years continued to pass, there were glimpses of what life could be like on the other side of fear. Small moments when courage showed up unexpectedly. When something scared happened anyway, almost by accident, without time to think about it and talk yourself out of it. And in those moments, there was a discovery. The fear was still there. The heart still raced. The hands still shook. But action was possible anyway. Movement was possible even while terrified. There was the time a difficult conversation finally happened. The truth finally spoken. And yes, it was uncomfortable. Yes, the other person was hurt or angry or defensive. Yes, there was conflict, but there was also relief, enormous relief. The weight of the unspoken truth was gone, and whatever happened next, at least it was real. At least it was honest. At least there was no more pretending. And then, sometime later, there was the trip that was taken. Not to Europe, that moment had passed, but a different trip. A solo trip, which felt even scarier. Traveling alone meant being responsible for everything. Meant being lost without someone to help navigate. Meant eating alone in restaurants and exploring cities alone and being with only your own thoughts for days on end. All of that sounded lonely and frightening, but it also sounded like freedom, like possibility, like the kind of thing that brave people do. So the trip was booked. The fear was enormous. Right up until departure, there was the urge to cancel, to stay home, to stay safe. But the tickets were non-refundable. There was no turning back. And so the trip happened. And it was hard sometimes. There were moments of loneliness, moments of confusion, moments of feeling completely lost in an unfamiliar place. But there were also moments of joy, of discovery, of talking to strangers, of navigating challenges and succeeding, of learning that being alone doesn't mean being lonely, of discovering capabilities that didn't seem to exist before. That trip changed something fundamental. It proved that fear was a liar, that the catastrophes it predicted didn't materialize. That going outside the comfort zone didn't lead to destruction. It led to growth, to expansion, to becoming a slightly bigger, braver version of self. There's something else I still think about. The apology that took years to finally speak. A falling out with a friend. Something said in anger that was hurtful and wrong. Pride and shame both prevented the apology. Pride said, "They hurt me too. Why should I apologize first?" Shame said, "It's been too long now. It would be weird to bring it up." Too much time has passed, so the friendship ended, slowly faded into nothing, became a person once loved who was now a stranger. But the regret of that unspoken apology was heavy, carried around for years, imagining what might have been different if courage had shown up sooner, if pride had been swallowed, if the simple words, "I'm sorry," had been said when they needed to be said. Maybe the friendship could have been saved. Maybe it couldn't have been, but at least the attempt would have been made. At least there would have been closure. At least the regret would have been smaller. What that taught was this: apologizing is always worth it, even if it's uncomfortable, even if time has passed, even if the other person doesn't accept it. Because the apology isn't just for them, it's for self too. It's releasing the burden of knowing something was done wrong and never made right. It's honoring the relationship that existed. It's saying, "This mattered to me, and I'm sorry for how I hurt it." Eventually, years later, that apology was finally made. An email sent. Simple and honest. No excuses, no explanations, just "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I think about what I said sometimes and I'm ashamed of it. I hope you're well." The response came quickly, not anger, not coldness, just gratitude, just "Thank you for saying that. It meant more than you know." The friendship didn't restart. Too much time had passed. Lives had moved in different directions. But the weight lifted. The regret eased. And the lesson stuck. Say the hard thing. Don't wait. Don't let years go by carrying the burden of unspoken words. Another memory surfaces now. The creative project that almost didn't happen. There was an idea, something that felt important, something that wanted to be made. A piece of writing or art or music, doesn't matter exactly what. But the fear was paralyzing. Fear that it wouldn't be good enough, that it would be judged, that people would see it and think it was stupid or poorly done or evidence of having no talent. So the project stayed inside, stayed as just an idea, just a wish, just a someday maybe. But the someday thinking is dangerous. It's permission to never do the thing, because someday never actually comes. There's always a reason to wait, always something else that needs to happen first, always a way to convince yourself that now isn't the right time. And so someday stretches into months and years and decades and eventually becomes never. The project finally happened when the excuse ran out, when it became clear that waiting for perfect conditions meant waiting forever. When the fear was acknowledged, yes, this is scary. Yes, it might not be good. Yes, people might judge it. But it's happening anyway, not because the fear went away, because the regret of not doing it became more powerful than the fear of doing it badly. And the thing was made. The project completed, and it wasn't perfect. It had flaws. Some people didn't like it. Some people were critical, but it existed. It was real. It was out in the world instead of locked inside. And that felt like triumph, not because of the outcome, because of the courage, because fear was faced and action happened anyway. What that experience taught was this: Starting imperfectly is better than waiting for perfect. Perfect never comes. Perfect is a myth. Perfect is the excuse fear uses to keep people from trying. But imperfect action creates momentum, creates learning, creates something real instead of something imagined. And often, the thing that feels imperfect to the creator is actually exactly what someone else needs to see or hear or experience. As time continued its steady march forward, there was a growing collection of two kinds of memories. Memories of courage and memories of regret. The courage memories were precious. They were proof that fear could be moved through. That life expanded when risks were taken. That discomfort was temporary, but growth was permanent. Those memories felt like victories, like evidence of becoming braver, like the self that always wanted to exist finally showing up. But the regret memories were teachers too. Painful teachers, but teachers nonetheless. Each one contained a lesson. Each one pointed to a truth that was being avoided. The regrets all said the same thing over and over. You waited too long. You let fear win. You chose safety over growth. You made yourself small when you could have been expansive. Those lessons hurt, but they were necessary. They were the motivation to choose differently next time. There's something else I still think about. The relationship that ended without a fight. Not romantic love, though it could have been, but friendship love, chosen family love. The kind that feels permanent until suddenly it isn't. The relationship started to shift, started to feel off balance, started to show signs of being unhealthy or one-sided or no longer serving either person well. But addressing that felt too hard, too confrontational, too risky. What if bringing it up made things worse? What if honesty ended the relationship? What if? So nothing was said. And the relationship slowly suffocated under the weight of unspoken resentments and unmet needs. It ended without clarity, without closure. Without the honesty that might have either healed it or given it a clean ending, just a slow fade. Messages getting shorter, calls less frequent, until eventually it was just gone. And both people were left wondering what happened, left with confusion instead of clarity. The lesson there was profound. Relationships need honesty to survive. Even when honesty is uncomfortable, even when it risks conflict, even when it might end things. Because a relationship built on pretending, on avoiding difficult topics, on never addressing problems, isn't a real relationship anyway. It's a performance. And performances are exhausting. And eventually they end. Looking back now, the wish is that vulnerability had come sooner, that the scary conversation had happened when things first started feeling wrong. Because maybe the relationship could have been saved. Maybe the problems could have been addressed. Maybe both people could have grown together instead of apart. Or maybe the relationship would have ended anyway. But at least it would have been a clean ending, with honesty, with mutual respect, with the closure that allows people to move on without lingering confusion and hurt. I remember another moment that changed everything. A moment of finally asking for help, struggling with something, mental health, probably, or some difficult life situation, and doing that alone for so long. Suffering in silence because asking for help felt like admitting defeat, felt like weakness, felt like burdening others with problems that should be solvable alone. So the struggle continued, got worse, became unbearable, until finally there was no choice. Until the pain of asking for help became less than the pain of continuing alone. And the help came, not judgment, not rejection, not the burden feared, just compassion, just support, just people saying, "I'm glad you told me. You don't have to do this alone. Let me help." And the relief was staggering. The weight that had been carried solo suddenly shared. The burden lightened. The path forward becoming visible when before there was only darkness. That experience taught something that should have been obvious but somehow wasn't. People want to help. Most people, when given the chance, want to be there for others, want to support, want to care. But they can't help if they don't know help is needed. Suffering in silence doesn't protect anyone. It just makes everything harder. And asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's courage. It's saying, "I'm human and humans aren't meant to carry everything alone." As the years continued to accumulate, courage became a practice instead of a feeling. It became something chosen instead of something waited for. Small acts of bravery started happening more regularly. Speaking up in meetings even when the voice shook. Setting boundaries even when it disappointed others. Trying new things even when failure was possible. Saying yes to opportunities even when they were terrifying. Saying no to things that weren't right even when saying yes would have been easier. Each small act built on the previous one. Created momentum. Created evidence that courage was possible. That fear could be felt and action could happen simultaneously. That the body could shake and the voice could tremble and the words could still be spoken. That imperfect attempts were better than perfect inaction. That showing up scared was showing up nonetheless. And then, sometime later, there was a moment of big courage. Something that required real risk, real vulnerability, real possibility of failure or rejection or embarrassment. The details don't matter as much as the feeling of standing at the edge of something, of knowing that jumping meant potential pain but staying meant certain regret, of understanding that this was a crossroads moment. A moment where courage or fear would win, where life would either expand or stay the same. The jump happened, the risk was taken, and it was terrifying. Every prediction fear made seemed absolutely true in that moment. The heart raced. The body screamed to stop. The mind listed every possible way this could go wrong. But the jump happened anyway. The words were spoken, or the action was taken, or the leap was made. And for a few seconds or minutes or hours, there was just the free fall, the not knowing. The waiting to see if courage or catastrophe would greet the landing. And the landing came. And it wasn't catastrophe. It was life, real life, messy life, complex life. Life that included some difficulty and some joy and some surprise and some learning and some growth and some pain and some relief. It was human life, not perfect, not easy, but real and authentic, and expansive in ways staying small never could have been. That moment became a marker, a before and after. Before that moment, fear was in charge. After that moment, fear was still present but no longer in control. It still spoke up, still made its case, still listed all the reasons to stay safe and small and careful. But its voice became one among many instead of the only voice that mattered. And other voices started getting louder. The voice of possibility, the voice of curiosity, the voice of growth. The voice of the self that wanted to live fully instead of carefully. There's something else I still think about often. The realization that everyone is scared, that the people who seem brave are just as frightened as everyone else. They just don't let the fear be the final answer. They feel it and act anyway. They shake and move forward. They cry and keep going. They doubt and try anyway. The fear is universal. The courage is in the action despite the fear. Understanding that changed everything. It meant feeling scared wasn't evidence of being broken or weak or not ready. It meant being scared was normal, was human, was the starting point, not the ending point. And the question shifted from how do I get rid of this fear to how do I act despite this fear? That subtle shift in question changed the entire game. Because the answer to the first question is you don't. You never fully get rid of fear. But the answer to the second question is one small step at a time. One small act of courage followed by another, building slowly, growing gradually. Becoming, over time, someone who feels fear and does the thing anyway. Another memory returns to me now. The realization that the opinions of strangers don't matter. This took decades to understand. So much energy was spent trying to manage what other people thought, trying to be liked by everyone, trying to be impressive or interesting or good enough in the eyes of people who barely knew her and whose opinions had no real impact on daily life. It was exhausting. It was impossible. It was a game that couldn't be won because there was always someone who disapproved or criticized or found fault. But with time came clarity. Most people aren't thinking about anyone else as much as feared. They're too busy with their own lives, their own worries, their own fears about what others think of them. The imagined audience that felt so large and judgmental was mostly imaginary. And the few people who did judge harshly, who had critical opinions and shared them freely, revealed more about themselves than about the person they were judging. Their criticism was their issue, not a reflection of truth. That realization was freedom. It meant the energy spent trying to manage others' opinions could be redirected, could be used for living authentically instead of performing acceptability, could be used for pursuing dreams instead of pursuing approval, could be used for building a life that felt true instead of a life that looked good. And the people whose opinions did matter became clearer too. The small circle of loved ones, the people who showed up consistently, the ones who offered support and care and honesty. Their opinions mattered because they knew the real person behind the performance, because they loved not the carefully curated version but the messy, flawed, authentic version. Those opinions were worth considering. Those voices were worth listening to. Everyone else, background noise. I remember another moment of hard-won courage, the ending of something that needed to end, a job that was soul-crushing, a living situation that was unhealthy, a pattern that was destructive. The fear of ending it was enormous. What would come next? How would bills get paid? Where would safety come from? What if the next thing was worse? All those questions felt like reasons to stay, to tolerate the intolerable, to keep accepting the unacceptable because at least it was known. At least it was predictable. At least it was survivable. But eventually something shifted. The pain of staying became greater than the fear of leaving. And when that balance tipped, the ending finally happened. The job was quit. The living situation was changed. The pattern was broken. And yes, there was a period of uncertainty, a period of not knowing what came next, a period of difficulty and adjustment and learning. But there was also relief, freedom, space to breathe, space to imagine something different, space to build toward something better. That experience taught that endings are often beginnings in disguise. That letting go of what isn't working creates space for what might work. That the unknown is scary, but also full of possibility. That staying in a bad situation out of fear is its own kind of suffering, often worse than the temporary discomfort of change. As the years kept moving forward, courage started to feel less like a dramatic act and more like a daily practice. It showed up in small ways, in speaking an unpopular truth, in admitting ignorance instead of pretending knowledge, in changing an opinion when presented with new information, in apologizing when wrong, in asking for what was needed, in saying no to what wasn't right, in being honest about limitations, in showing vulnerability instead of armor, in trying and failing and trying again. None of these small acts felt particularly brave in the moment. They just felt necessary. But looking back, they were courage. They were choosing authenticity over approval, choosing growth over comfort, choosing truth over performance. Each small choice built on the others, creating a life that felt increasingly aligned with the person trying to emerge. There's something else that keeps returning in memory. The people who were let go, not because they did anything wrong, but because holding on to them meant holding on to a version of self that no longer fit. Sometimes people are connected to certain chapters of life, and when the chapter ends, the relationship needs to end too, not with anger or drama, just with acknowledgement that the season has passed, that different paths are being walked now, that love can exist alongside goodbye. Those endings were some of the hardest because they required choosing self over comfort, choosing growth over loyalty to the past, choosing the person being become over the person that used to be. And there was grief in those choices, real grief, for the friendships that were real but no longer fit, for the connections that mattered but couldn't come forward into the next chapter, for the loss of people who shaped and supported earlier versions of self but couldn't understand or support the evolving version. But those endings were also necessary and brave and evidence of finally choosing self, of finally prioritizing growth over stagnation, of finally understanding that some people are meant to be part of the story for a season, not a lifetime. And that's okay. That's not failure. That's just life. That's just the natural evolution of a person becoming who they're meant to be. Another realization came late but landed deeply. That the worst moments, the failures, the times when everything fell apart, those were the most educational experiences. They taught resilience. They taught resourcefulness. They taught what really mattered. They stripped away everything non-essential and revealed the core. They showed what was strong enough to survive. And often, so much more was strong enough than seemed possible before the test came. Fear said that failure would be the end, that mistakes would be unrecoverable, that falling apart meant staying broken. But reality showed something different. It showed that people are remarkably resilient, that they bend without breaking, that they find ways through impossible situations, that they rebuild after loss, that they learn from failure, that they grow through difficulty in ways comfort never teaches. Looking back now at all the moments of courage and all the moments of regret, a pattern emerges. The regrets are all about inaction, about chances not taken, about words not spoken, about risks not attempted. The fears felt enormous in those moments. The reasons for staying safe felt valid and important and true. But with time and distance, those reasons look small, look like excuses, look like fear dressed up as logic. And the courage moments, even the ones that led to difficulty or failure or pain, those aren't regretted. Because they led to learning, to growth, to stories, to proof that action was possible, to evidence that fear could be survived. Even when things didn't work out as hoped, there's no regret for trying, only for not trying sooner. If the younger version of self could hear one message, it would be this: try. Just try. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop waiting for fearless. Stop waiting for certain. Try anyway. Try scared. Try imperfect. Try not knowing how it will turn out. Try and maybe fail. Try and maybe succeed. Try and definitely learn. But try. Because the trying is what creates the life. The trying is what builds the courage. The trying is what transforms fear from a prison into just uncomfortable background noise. The trying is everything. The years have accumulated now, more behind than ahead, probably. And looking back, the moments of pride are the brave ones, not the times when things were easy or safe or comfortable. The times when fear was present but action happened anyway. Those are the moments that matter. Those are the moments that built this life. Those are the moments that created the person looking back on them now. And looking forward, there's still fear, still uncertainty, still the voice that says stay safe, don't risk it, what if it goes wrong? But that voice is quieter now. And the other voice, the one that says try anyway, what if it goes right? What if this is wonderful? That voice is louder, stronger, more convincing, because it has evidence now, years of evidence, decades of proof that courage creates life while fear creates only regret. So the practice continues, the small acts of bravery, the daily choices to move toward fear instead of away from it, the commitments to try and fail rather than never try at all. The understanding that this one life deserves to be lived fully, messily, imperfectly, but authentically, with courage as the compass, with fear as the companion that never leaves but also never gets to drive, with action as the answer to the question, what should I do with this precious, short, uncertain life? The answer is whatever you're afraid to do, that's what you should do. Not recklessly, not without thought, but despite the fear, with the fear, through the fear, because on the other side of fear is everything. Is life, is growth, is becoming, is the person who was always meant to exist but got stuck behind the wall of safety and comfort and staying small. The wall is breakable. Fear makes it seem solid, permanent, impossible to cross. But it's not. It's paper thin. It's made of nothing but thoughts and predictions and imagined catastrophes that rarely come true. And every act of courage is a small tear in that wall. Every brave choice is a step through it. Every moment of trying despite fear is proof that the wall was never real to begin with. If these reflections stirred something in you, if they reminded you of your own moments of courage or regret, if they inspired even one small act of bravery, I'd be grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a like and subscribe. There are more honest stories here, more gentle truths about being human, more reminders that fear is universal, but so is courage. Thank you for spending this time with me. And may you find the bravery to try, whatever it is, whatever you're afraid of, try anyway. The world needs what only you can bring to it, and that requires courage. But courage is possible, even for those who feel afraid, especially for those who feel afraid.